Hi, welcome to OK Climbing from the BMC with me, Niall Grimes. So, in 1998, Steve McClure did the first ascent of Mutations at Raven Tor, Britain's first 9A, and since that, despite the efforts of many, it's been unrepeated. Will Bosi's a young Scottish climber, been climbing 9A for a while, very talented, even added his own 9B pluses in Spain with routes like King Capella. Amazing climber, very strong, one of the best young climbers in the country. Last week, Will repeated Mutations. Incredible effort, very newsworthy, really interesting to see this finally happen, because Raven Tor is more or less the centre of hard climbing in the UK, where all the strongest climbers come and test themselves. So if it's not getting done, it means it's hard. All the lines have been done at Raven Tor with many link-ups apart from one, the notorious Brandenburg Gate. This has been tried by a few but dismissed as being next level. And at the weekend, who comes along and does it? Will, in no time. That's amazing. So I caught up with Will to hear about Mutations, to hear about Brandenburg Gate, to see where he's at with his climbing and where he's going next. So tune in. Shh, stop rattling crisps. So tune in for our chat with Will. One thing I got to say, I'm not very good at this. The visual levels go a bit cranky halfway through, and the sun came out and it gets a bit bright. It kind of looks like an atomic bomb went off over the M1. We're left in the glow of it for a while. So forgive me. Who cares about that? We're just here to hear what Will has to say. And at the end of the show, we're going to have Will's ascent. Thanks to Band of Birds for sorting us out, and Matt and everyone. Thanks for the Climbing Hangar for hosting us. So tune in. Here it is. Will Bosi talking about Mutations, talking about Brandenburg Gate. Let's go. Amazing. Well, I turned up at Raven Tor yesterday for one of my annual visits, and I got there, and in no time at all I looked over to where near Hubble and Mutations, and I saw you setting off from the ground on what was always Brandenburg Gate, and you climbed to the top of it, and it was a very amazing thing to watch. And part of me is thinking, wow, that's history happening there. This long-standing project in the heart of Sheffield's sort of major climbing venue. How did it feel yourself? Did it feel like a special thing? Because arguably that's the last problem at Raven Tor.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely felt special. I mean, Raven Tor is kind of like, I don't know, it's maybe not the best crowd in the world, but it's a cool place, and it's got good routes. And to get like a first ascent there, like kind of regardless of the line, like a new line of bolts, I was like, I'm really happy with that and feel kind of quite special with that.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, with all the big names of Ben, Jerry and all that, and like you're thinking back to all, and you look at the routes and who first ascented them, it's like, I don't know, to me the history of it gets me excited, so it's like cool to have my name kind of in there as well.
Sure. I mean, history's not a big thing for everyone, but for you it is, you're saying?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I find it really interesting, like when I do a route, looking up who bolted the line or who cleaned it, and like who's tried it over the years and stuff. I find that, I don't know, it's just quite like, gives a bit more context to like the sport, you know, when you're just going out and climbing just a random bit of rock. It's like cool to know the history behind that bit of rock in a way. Sure.
What is the history behind that bit of rock? Do you know about Brandenburg Gate? Was initially an aid climb.
Yeah, the same with, because it's just the line to the right of Hubble, and the same as Hubble, it was an aid climb, I think, begin with as well, like 7C or 7C plus. And then, basically it was just when people got more into sport climbing and the idea of like freeing the routes, people thought you could just free them, and then obviously Ben freed Hubble in 1990, and then Brandenburg just never got done. It was just kind of left to the right, and I guess it kind of, people assumed it was maybe too hard. Like John Gaskins tried it a lot back, when was he trying it? Was it in the 2000s, I think? I think it was around the early 2000s he was trying it.
Right.
And he supposedly like was doing good attempts on it, but never managed to link it.
Always shrouded in mystery about John's attempts, aren't he? He was never, an early starter, an early riser.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, he would always supposedly be at the crag from like, I don't know, 4 or 5 or something for the best conditions. But you see, I'm not like that, so I go to the crag more around midday.
The way most people do.
So, and then I guess because he didn't send it in the end, people assumed it was absolutely desperate, and then it's just not been tried much.
almost his failure moved it into a different zone of impossibility, almost, didn't it?
In a way, yeah, I think. Like, I mean, when you look at routes like Violent New Breed, which, you know, are just on a crazy level of difficulty, and then you're like, oh, and he did those and he didn't manage to do this. It's like, must be hard. But I think also, like, with technology changing, like now there's like better toe rubber on shoes, like the beta that I use, which involves a toe hook. Maybe he wouldn't have thought of, or wouldn't have worked as well. But yeah, I think from the sense of it, the beta is just very different what I did, and yeah, the way I do it doesn't make it seem that crazy anymore.
Right. Okay. Did you unlock it?
Yeah, I think so. Like I had maybe 3 or 4 sessions. I just went by myself and was just hanging around, like on the bolts, just like looking around for every possible sort of thing. And at the crux, there's about 4 or 5 different methods, and all of them I was like, oh, this could be it. Every time I was like, oh, you could do it this way, and then you try it a couple of times and be like, actually, it's really, really hard. And then eventually, I like found the final method, and it just like, as soon as I like worked out the body positions, it just like all clicked together, and I was like, oh, okay, I can send this then. Yeah.
So I guess that's one of the special things about doing a first ascent is you're unwrapping it the way every other route's been unwrapped before, and even we'll talk about Mutation in a minute, but you had Steve's template to work on. But is that one of the things about doing a first ascent? It's your own. Yeah, it's
creation. I think there's so much enjoyment out of it. It's like you kind of remember what like the pure parts of climbing are, just going out, finding something, and just kind of just messing around, but you're in your own world, just having a great time. And it like doesn't matter if you're trying the wrong beta for like 5 sessions or 10 sessions. When you work out something else, you go, you're just like psyched and happy, and like to me that's it. It just is so enjoyable, and I just like really get on with that. But yeah, no, for this, one of the early sessions, Steve beelied me a bit on it and was telling me some of the stuff that he had found when he tried it, like the toe hook, which was like one of the key things. But then it was from the toe hook, like the release that's what I was like stuck on working out, and that was the key for it.
It looked like the key was just to be really strong, because it looked like a sort of just brute
brutality
to hold that
from what
near cut loose.
From what you're saying now, like now that, you know, I've posted a video and the beta's out there, I could see someone that is really strong just turning up and doing it in a session or something, which is like crazy to think of, but at the same time, when you know what to do and you can turn up and just try and execute it, it's not quite the same, I guess, as you know, when you're trying to first ascent something. I think having done some first ascents now, I've gained like, I mean, already had a lot of respect for first ascensionists, but it's like so much more now, just thinking like the time they put in to work out the right beta. And then
when people downgrade things, you think there's so much goes into a first ascent. Sometimes that can account for, I mean, you know, Alex Magos, his bibliography came down a good bit. I guess he's quite gutted about that, from what was like a world cutting edge grade down to sort of,
I mean, I think it's still up there at 9B plus.
I guess,
I suppose, it's not 9C.
You've graded at 9A plus, which, you know, the sort of, it seems like talking off the top of my head, a relatively low grade for the last great problem at Raven Tor. Was that sort of concern about having it downgraded part of your thing, or is that genuinely feel relative to the other things?
The thing is, for my grades, I try and be honest as to how they feel for me. And obviously for everyone they're going to feel a bit different, and it may well, that's the thing, it may even well get downgraded from 9A plus. But like to me it just didn't feel hard enough to be 9B. Once I worked the sequence out, the fact that unlike my first proper red point session I've sent it, I was like, it just like in my head it doesn't add up to be harder than 9A plus. When you're looking literally 2 meters to the left at Hubble, and it's not that much easier. I think it is a bit easier, but I don't think it's that much easier. So it's like, I mean, you never know, people might come out with some new knee bar beta that I missed completely, and it could get, you know, downgraded again or something. Maybe I was doing something still wrong. I just found almost good beta, so it's a hard one. But I think, I don't think it, unfortunately, I was kind of wanting it to like live up in my head to the reputation and be ridiculously hard, and it definitely was not as hard as I thought it would be.
Did you do Hubble this year? Last year?
Did Hubble in 2017,
Right, okay.
I think.
Have you been on Hubble since?
Yeah, I pulled back on it at the end of the day after climbing Brandenburg just to feel the moves again.
Right.
Just
you're talking about historically, is Hubble Mutation yours, and what's changed over the years in terms of the cutting edge? Because there are 3 cutting edge climbs. Maybe Brandenburg isn't cutting edge. Maybe it's just very hard.
I think the moves in it are like, so Hubble is very basic. It's like if you were to picture like old school climbing and training, it's what you kind of imagine, like down the schoolroom on a board, just like smashing between holds, and that's like Hubbling to a T. Whereas this is like, although you're pulling again on bad holds and doing these hard moves, there's so much more twisting and weird feet and body positions. It's kind of like, I think it's just a different style of route, really. Right. I don't think it's like, anything's particularly changed. Like, I'm sure Steve or Ben with the beta could go back and have like a good shot at doing it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, Mutation on the other hand, it's a completely different route. Like,
go on, tell us about Mutation. Was that an epic for you? Was that a?
Yeah, I think about it as epic as we come, really. Yeah. I mean, it's been 4 years, about around 40 sessions. I lost count of sessions when we hit around 30, I think.
Right.
I just kind of...
That's a good idea. Stop counting when you reach 30.
Yeah, well, it's a mixture of stopping counting, just kind of forgetting. I was like, is this session 30 or 31 or 32? Yeah, it just... But because in the end it was like I realised it was such a battle of conditions and skin. I could go down and have like, put the draws in, have an attempt and be like, oh, you know what, it's just not going to happen today. And then be like, well, yeah, I'll leave it. And that would be like, still counts as a session, obviously, but...
Is that because the hold's not a particular... What you said about that is not true for the other ones so much, it's not so...
Yeah, so for Hubble and... so Brandenburg does have one really sharp hold, which is like taken off almost his fingertip, to be fair. But they're not so bad in the sense that you could be stronger than the route. So if... like how... when you watch the video of Magos on Hubble, he's like doing beta that not really other people do. He just would get a hold, instead of putting like both feet on a knee bar or anything, he just like flag the leg under and just like drop in.
Because he's stronger than it.
Because he's just stronger than the route, so he could make it happen.
He didn't have to climb it perfectly.
Yeah, he could like pull harder so that he wouldn't have to be in the best conditions, or if he made mistakes it was okay. Whereas for Mutation, it felt like you have to be perfect. I don't think you can be... I mean, I'm sure you can be stronger than the route, you just have to be next level strong. It's just like, because the holds are so small, the feet are small, it's like fairly vertical and super delicate climbing. It's just, if something goes wrong, you're going to fall off. You can't grab a 4 mil or 8 mil edge and just be stronger than it. If the conditions are wrong, you're going to slip off. So I think it makes it a lot harder to do, although like grade wise necessarily isn't that much harder. Kind of an odd concept, but
I know some things are harder to do, and so you think you grade it for the perfect day and the perfect skin.
Well, that's the thing, like in grading, I mean, I suppose you should also, in a way, you should be considering like like if you do a boulder problem and the way you have to do it is using these 2 tiny crimps in the middle of the wall because you can't reach between the 2 good ones, but you think, actually, I know someone that would be able to reach them. You kind of have to take that into account, but in general, you're grading for how you experience the route. As long as there's not like obvious things like that. And for me, and you grade it for how you experience it and the fact that it should be done in perfect conditions with, ideal skin, because if you're grading it for bad conditions, everything would kind of be all over the place, I feel like.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing, Steve, doing that. Does it still, taking all that into consideration, is it still an impressive ascent for its time? Obviously it is. But
yeah, for sure. It's the bit that kind of makes me more impressed about it is the fact that it was like, it's just, I don't know, like it was Steve's first 9A, I think. It was his first ascent of that grade, and he's like, oh, smashed it out, 9A, okay, move on to the next one. And he went and did all these other ones, and it's crazy that the other ones, seem quite a few repeats now, and are probably at the right grade, whereas this just feels like so far above the others. It's like, for him to do it as the first one that's what gets me. It's just like super cool. And it's kind of kind of mind-blowing how long ago he sent it.
I
as
know,
well.
yeah. And it might be a long time before it gets done again, maybe.
Yeah.
I saw Toby Roberts there yesterday. Was he trying
He
Evolution?
just did Evolution.
Right.
Yeah. I think he's put a couple days into that, so that was cool to see.
Right.
He was
Did he do that yesterday?
2 days ago.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, yesterday he was trying Kabar because
Alright.
he's still young and rest days, he just doesn't need so many.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
he was fourth day on or something trying Kabar, which is quite impressive.
So Steve doing this thing back in whatever it was, 23 years ago.
Yeah.
Was that a style that was around a lot more then?
A mix. I think it was more the style of the time.
Dirty
so
crimps.
because I can't remember what the full climb's called, but the extension of the groove at Malham, which is 8A plus, and the extension gets 8B, it tops out the crag. I actually can't remember the name. Totally free, yeah, because it was Simon Nadin on-sighted that, I think.
The groove, I think he did.
Was it the groove?
Yeah.
No, okay, but to me, me and Jim Pope a couple of years ago were at Malham, and we tried the groove, and at least I definitely got I just felt so defeated on it.
Right.
It felt so hard.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking whoa, that back in the day, just on-sighting routes like that. And I think that shares a similar style to stuff like Mutation.
Right.
And it is, I think it was just they climbed on that style of routes more back then, so they were more used to it and probably a bit better at it.
Yeah.
And it's super impressive.
I guess
those
back
old
in that
ascents.
time, people were on rock a lot, weren't they? People climbed on rock
I think
all the time.
that also makes quite a big difference for the routes at Raven Tor. This is I've had 2 solid weeks now of going basically just going to the tour and not really climbing indoors or anything, and essentially just climbing there trains you for it and gets you way more prepared to climb there.
Yeah.
And I think having the time on the rock makes a huge difference at definitely at specific crags. There's crags where the routes are indoor routes, like Santolin in Spain. You could train the gym, you're going to go out there and have a good time. Whereas I think for places, especially like Raven Tor, if you're not putting the time in, it's going to be hard. So
Right, yeah.
I think the fact that maybe there were less climbing walls and stuff, and Steve would have been probably training at the tour a fair bit, probably did help quite a bit.
So Brandenburg Gate's got a gnarly, it's kind of short, gnarly. You recently did, or not recently, but last year, the King Capella 9B plus in, what's the crag?
Sierrana. The crag is called La Capella, which is the chapel.
Right.
It's a translation, so it's kind of a play on the King of the Chapel.
Right.
To
look at the route, it looked like a gnarly. It wasn't like a sort of long endurance thing. It was kind of
it's
total body rigidness the whole way up type of thing. A bit the same.
It's the style of climbing I think I like the most.
Is that where you're pushing things now at the minute? Is that
a bit a bit longer than bouldering, but not quite as long as La Rambla sort of style. So in that 15 meter, 20 meter routes are what get me the most sight.
Right.
Yeah, and so all the routes of that crag are
when
similar.
you got to the flake yesterday, you moved across to the flake where the Macabila has clipped the beat in and lowered off. There's no question of going on because that's not the question.
Yeah, so you could.
Not the question.
This is
the short, powerful, concentrated.
That's the thing. For me, that route, Brandenburg's just about the boulder problem at the start.
Yeah.
It's not about going onto the top of the wall.
No.
In a way, you could say it's more logical to finish at the top, but for that route, the logical finish is just after the boulder, essentially, because that's what it's about. And it didn't. I could have kept going. There's 5, 6, maybe 7 different finishes I could have taken, go on higher, but none of them really seemed like the logical thing to do to me or got me that inspired. And someone can come in the future and do another link up. I mean, Steve did quite a few with Evo. He did Steve Evolution, which goes into links across into Kambar.
Devolution too, isn't there?
Yeah, that goes lower into Chimes, I think.
Right.
And so, but you could still link Mutation to the top of the crag. It finishes kind of in the middle of the wall as well, but it finishes at a logical point of good holds.
Yeah.
Where even if you go to the top, I guess you get more climbing, but the grade won't change.
Yeah, it won't get any harder.
You might just fall off.
Yeah. So is that a style of thing that's been done? Because recently it's been long sort of bibliography type things, but is there a forcing ground for these short?
I think
Grim. They do look grim in a way, don't they?
Yeah,
good way, in a good way.
they're quite often not as pleasant as like a 40-meter nice jug fest. Yeah. I think for sure the coolest routes, like if you want to look at a video or a photo, the coolest routes are the long ones. Like, and the stuff that does kind of get me when I see what other people are doing, stuff like bibliography or Perfectamundo, that like they just look like they're just hard moves that go on forever. That is like, I mean, that's what sport climbing's about, really. But I think there is a place for the shorter sport routes, and I think people are psyched for them, and it also gives like the crossover that if boulders want to do something a bit different, it's something that they can probably access quite well. So
yeah,
you know,
you have to think about the poor boulders, don't you?
Just you know, so, or if you're a sport climber that wants to transition to bouldering, it's a good way to train on rock, isn't it? Yeah.
So how's it feel having done first ascents? And they're two pretty significant first ascents. Has that been a new thing in your climbing, inspiring thing in itself, or were you just after climbs?
Bit of everything.
Like, first ascent
this is the thing. So all the first ascents I've done have been of things that I'm super inspired to climb. I've like really enjoyed trying and working out. So it's been a new process this year. I've not done it before this year, and it's been like really eye-opening. I like enjoyed it so much, and I've just been like, all right, this is like definitely way more what I want to do in the future. I've still got a good list of stuff I want to repeat, but yeah, the first ascenting's been really, really enjoyable.
Right. Any other ones in mind?
What, first ascents?
Yeah.
In the UK, not that I'm that aware of. I've got boulders that I want to first ascent up in Scotland. I did, but they're a bit of a mission. Around the peak, I'm not really too sure, to be honest. Like, this is the thing at the tour, the only sort of stuff left now is link-ups, you know.
I know, so, yeah, which aren't really first ascents, are they?
No.
Yeah.
And I'm not that motivated to do.
Right.
So
what next then? Sorry, just ask you, well, you were able to be here this time because of the lack of focus on competitions this time of year. How come that's been? Is that COVID's cancelled a few? Because there has been some, hasn't there?
Yeah, so COVID's cancelled a good few, but also just because of it not being, because the Olympics happened this year and it not being selection for the next Olympics yet, there's just been like a lot less comps than there would be. So in the Olympic cycles, there's a ridiculous amount of comps, because you've not only got the World Cups that you have to compete in for the rankings, you've got then all these extra events that go on to qualify for the Olympics. So yeah, this year it's just been a very chill year for it. Right. So it's meant that we've had the perfect months for climbing outdoors without having to train for comps. So, yeah.
And has the trade been worth it?
Yes, definitely.
Because competitions they just they absorb so much, don't they? They take away a lot of your freedom because they demand so much focus.
Definitely.
So how's that trade been for you?
Yeah, it's been really nice these last like 2 months to actually just have like a more relaxed time on everything. Like I've not been in the gym that much. I have just been kind of outdoors, which has been super fun. And obviously I'm still trying hard and training in a way out there, but yeah, it's I don't know, it's just been a nice change of pace, I think. And yeah, hopefully there'll be more like gaps like this every year.
Yeah, but you will return to the comp focus when the time is right.
Yeah, I've got like I've got stuff I still want to do, but I don't know. I'm kind of like seeing how stuff progresses, because for now with Tokyo out the way, Paris and the Paris cycle starting, Paris I think is going to be quite a different Olympics. Like climbing might change quite a lot in the competition world, so we're all waiting to see, you know, how they're even going to begin to score stuff or what the disciplines will look like. So we're going to need to wait, work it all out, and then see where we go from there. Yeah.
So in the future, there's a mantelpiece, a gold medal on it, or the first ascent of the hardest route in the world. The Olympic gold or first ascent
of the hardest route in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could answer that, to be honest. I'd probably rather do the hardest route in the world, but I don't know how you'd have that on your mantelpiece, because surely at some point someone's going to do one harder, right?
Sure, but you can name it the hardest route in the world, or
yeah, true.
Biography,
like how Mutation was probably the hardest route in the world at the time. Yeah, I'd probably go for that. as long as, you know, it was an absolute battle and I put like 100 days in and it felt worth it. You know?
Right. Yeah. Sure. Oh, amazing. Well, congratulations. It's really cool to see you do that. Yes, it was a very amazing thing to see you doing. Really glad you did that. It's amazing. Thanks for the time. Thanks for the chat.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Yes. Cool.
Come on, Will.
Come on.
Come on.
Come on. Yeah, come on.
Come on. Come on.
Come on.
Come on.
Come on, Will. Awesome, come on.
Come on.
Come on. Come on.
Nice, come on.
Come on, really good.
Come on.
Awesome, come on.
Come on. Nice.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah.
Nuts. Flip train if you like. What is it? Flip train if you like.
Nice, Will. Hey.